Good afternoon, everyone. It is December 25th. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to every one of you out there. I hope it is a good day for you. The fiscal year 2023 National Defense Authorization Act was recently signed, and I've read through it, and I want to talk about what's in it so that you guys can understand what the priorities for the United States military are. And how you can tell their priorities is how we are funding them. You usually prioritize the things you're throwing money at. So first and foremost, the budget was increased. The top line authorization is $857.9 billion. This is actually a significant increase and is $45 billion more than President Biden requested. It is $90 billion more than last year's budget, and this increase serves two primary purposes. The first is to offset the effects of inflation on the defense budget, and the second is to accelerate research and development on many weapon systems that would be useful in a potential fight against Russia or China. There is significant emphasis on integrating disruptive technologies such as hypersonic weapons, artificial intelligence, 5G communication, and quantum computing. The act provides obviously for modernization efforts of ships, aircrafts, vehicles, other equipment, and ensures that the U.S. military remains the best equipped military in the entire world. It also authorizes a 4.6% pay raise for both military service members and the Department of Defense civilian workforce. It sets an authorized end strength for the Army at 452,000, the Navy at 354,000, the Air Force at 325,000, the Marine Corps at 177,000, and the Space Force at 86,000. It also authorizes a reserve and National Guard component end strength of around 445,000 total. Now, from an air power standpoint, it authorizes the requested funding for the procurement of combat aircraft and munitions. This includes funding for an additional 4 EC-37 Compass Call aircraft. These are electronic warfare aircraft used to disrupt enemy command and control communications and suppress air defense networks. It authorizes funding for the purchase of an additional 5 F-35 aircraft, to purchase an additional 10 HH-60 helicopters, and prohibits the retirement of the F-22 Block 20 aircraft. But unfortunately for those of us that love the aircraft, it does support the planned retirement of the A-10. It authorizes an increase of $301 million to accelerate the production of a prototype E-7 aircraft for airborne and command and control missions. This is an airborne early warning and control aircraft that likely will be developed to replace the AWACS. It requires the retention of the EA-18 Growler aircraft. Now, this is a carrier-based version of the electronic warfare aircraft I just was talking about. From a land warfare standpoint, this is the Army and the Marines. It supports the Army's focus to modernize things like long-range fires, which is artillery, future vertical lift in their helicopters, next-generation combat vehicles, and air and missile defense systems. It backs the advancements in individual soldier systems and network capabilities, where the individual soldiers can have an easier time to communicate and visualize the battlefield in real time, making them more lethal. It authorized increased funding for the procurement of combat helicopters, armored fighting vehicles, long-range artillery, and air and missile defenses. It directs an assessment of the requirement to continue to bolster our Patriot air and missile defense systems, and increases funding for various helicopters, including the Chinook and the Black Hawk, as well as the Gray Eagle drone platform. We also have increased funding for the M-SHORAD, which is the short-range air defense system, as well as more advanced Patriot missile system development, with also a focus on bolstering our industrial preparedness in the event of a potential war. We have increased funding for Abrams tanks. We have provided funding to upgrade Strykers, as well as Paladins, which are the mobile artillery pieces, the tracked mobile artillery. From a general munitions standpoint, over $2.7 billion has been allocated for munitions production and capacity expansion. It directs an assessment of this industrial production base to meet both steady state current and a surge requirement were war to break out, and also accelerates the development of the precision strike missile system. From a sea power standpoint, the big focus is obviously China here. It allocates the purchase of 15 Arleigh Burke class destroyers, as well as bolstering our Navy shipbuilding capability and procurement of an additional 11 battle force ships and supply ships. It authorizes an additional $25 million to research a new sea-launched cruise missile, prohibits the early retirement of 12 vessels that were supposed to retire this past year, authorizes an increase for the enhancement of naval mining and mine delivering capabilities. It authorizes the funding to bolster our Columbia-class and Virginia-class submarines, and increases funding for advanced undersea capabilities. The Navy will also get a bunch of aircraft, new F-18s, new F-35s, new CH-53s, V-22s, E-2 Hawkeyes, KC-130 tankers, MQ-4 Tritons, MQ-25 Stingrays, as well as a bunch of unmanned aerial systems that will go to the Marine Corps. It authorizes $5.9 billion for just general Navy munitions as well. As a general requirement, the new authorization requires the Secretary of Defense, the Director of National Intelligence, and the Secretary of State to provide a strategy to increase cooperation with countries in the Middle East to counter the threat of Iran. When it comes to Ukraine, it extends and modifies the USAI, which authorizes $800 million in funding to go to Ukraine. Now, this isn't the same thing as that $60 billion bill that we're still awaiting passage in Congress, but it does provide a small amount of additional funds to Ukraine in this package. It requires the Department of Defense to report on their medium and short-term plans for providing security assistance to Ukraine. It emphasizes the importance of a unified response to Russia's war in Ukraine. It stresses the importance of oversight and transparency and guides on how to do that with regard to this money we're sending to Ukraine by using the Inspector General to oversee this U.S. assistance. Now, when it comes to the Pacific deterrence, it increases security cooperation with Taiwan, consistent with the Taiwan Relations Act. Moving to the Indo-Pacific, it authorizes funds for the U.S. Coast Guard and its capabilities to actually train and conduct exercises with other Indo-Pacific partners, such as the Philippines, etc. It requires engagement with India's Ministry of Defense to expand cooperation on emerging technology, readiness, logistics, etc. And it actually establishes the Indo-PACOM area of responsibility now. Now, from a research and development standpoint, there's been increases for suicide drones, increases to artificial intelligence through DARPA, increases to quantum computing activities, increases to the development and test and prototype of advanced jamming technologies, as well as advanced jamming protection, electronic warfare, signal measurement, etc. A lot of money is going to increase the 5G technology development budget for the military, as well as trying to transition to the Open Radio Access Network, also known as ORAN, and it directs the Secretary of Defense to find ways to counter biological threats across the globe. It also requires the development of advanced security of microelectronics, such as integrated circuits, sensors, storage, processors, etc. Within the realm of logistics, it authorizes money for stockpile replenishment and bolsters maintenance across the board for all services. And then finally, when it comes to nuclear weapons and missile defense, this budget broadly modernizes and adds security to our nuclear forces and allocates funds to develop a nuclear-capable submarine-launched cruise missile. There was an increase of nearly $300 million to support further development of hypersonic glide phase interceptors, as well as an increase of $165 million to purchase an additional 15 THAAD interceptors. And it makes a ban on exchanging information with Russia related to missile defense completely permanent. And that's what was in the National Defense Authorization Act. It's a lot of heavy reading, but that was a summary just for you guys. Have a good rest of your Christmas and happy holidays.